I'm calling it really early in this review. The Samsung Odyssey is the best headset that you can buy right now. Stay tuned to find out why. Hi and thanks for tuning in to Mixed Reality TV. My name is Sebastian Ang, and if you're just as excited as me about things like the Samsung Odyssey and VR and AR in general, then subscribe now and click the bell button so you don't miss anything. So finally, here it is. This is the full review of the Samsung Odyssey. I know that you guys have been waiting for this for a very long time, so let's get right into it. I would like to start off this review by talking about design, comfort and features of this device. So first of all, what you have to know, this is a PSVR style of headset. So the weight of this device rests on your forehead instead of being pressed into your face, like with the ski mask type of devices like the Oculus Rift or the HTC Vive. Now, I personally prefer this kind of style so much more because it allows me to stay within VR for much longer, and that's no difference with this device. This is a really comfortable device, even though it has a weight of over 600 grams. So it is a bit more bulky, yes, but you won't feel it when you're in VR when you wear this because it's simply so comfortable to wear it. You can adjust the strap here with this dial and simply attach it to your forehead so all the weight rests here, and this is an incredibly comfortable device. Now what's also great is that the part that is in touch with your head is made of some faux leather. So instead of having some foam there which would get wet and really uncomfortable to wear, if you should sweat in VR, and that does happen to quite a lot of us, you can simply wipe the sweat off and you're good to go again. Then also, of course, the face mask is made from the same material, and if you should ever want to replace it, you can simply get it off here. It's attached to by Velcro, so you can either replace it with the same type or even get a custom one made for you from any kind of third-party manufacturer. So that is really cool. Another very welcome feature are the included headphones and the included mic. Now, that is a first for Windows MR headsets, so this is good. There has been some talk about if those headphones would be too short. However, you can adjust them in length and in position. And I can just tell you from my personal experiences, these headphones fit perfectly over my ears. And I've given this headset to other people to try, and also for them, it was simply perfect. So for me, those headphones are good. I think they are all right. And also in terms of audio quality, I have compared this with the HTC Vive Deluxe Audio Strap, and there aren't big differences. So these headphones are perfectly fine. On the bottom of the device, you will have a volume rocker. Now, this is incredibly useful, so you don't have to get out of VR in order to adjust the volume, but you can directly do it here on the headset, and that is cool. Now, for many people, another important feature that you also can find on the bottom of the device is the IPD adjustment, this wheel here. Now, what is the IPD? The IPD is the interpupillary distance, the distance between your eyes. The average is 64, but if your IPD is considerably larger or smaller than this, you will run into problems with all the other headsets that don't have this adjustment. Actually, all the other Windows MR headsets, they do not have this adjustment. But with this adjustment, you can change the distance between the lenses and can perfectly match your own IPD. So that is a very important feature, and it's great that the Samsung Odyssey has it. Now let's talk about the nose room. The nose room is really important because if it's too small, your nose is going to press against the headset all the time, which is really not comfortable at all. So for the Odyssey, this is pretty awesome. Look at how much space you have here for your nose. This is bigger than for other headsets. But unfortunately, Samsung has built those flaps here. Those plastic flaps to keep the light out. Now, once you wear it, these flaps are going to press against your nose, and this is a bit uncomfortable in the beginning. So, what you have to do when you wear it, you have to tuck these in next to your nose, and then it's going to be comfortable again. But unfortunately, I believe this is a little oversight from Samsung, and they could have done it much better. And here, in this case, the design of the HTC Vive, for example, is much better, where you don't have to adjust these flaps with your finger. One really important feature of the Samsung Odyssey and of all the other Windows MR headsets are, of course, the two cameras here and here. Now, these two cameras are used for the so-called inside-out tracking. Now, for all of you who don't know what is inside-out tracking, the great thing about the Samsung Odyssey and all the other Windows MR headsets is that you don't need external base stations like you need them for the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift in order to track the headset and the controllers in space. Everything is done with those cameras. The cameras have a look at your environment and figure out where is the headset in space and where are the controllers. So that is definitely an important feature of this headset and of all the Windows MR headsets. Alright, now that you know about the overall design and the features of the Samsung Odyssey, we can talk about the display and the lenses. And we can cut it straight to the point. This here has the best display of any VR headset out there right now, with a resolution of 1600 times 1200 per eye. This is considerably sharper than any of the other Windows MR headsets and much sharper than Oculus Rift, HTC Vive and PSVR. The HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift have a resolution of 1200 times 1080 per eye, and the PSVR has a resolution of 960 times 1080, so considerably lower. And you can tell this here looks much crisper, and this is the best picture that you can get in VR right now. So I took a camera and took some pictures through the lens just to show you the difference, and here we go. Now I'm in the great position to own the Samsung Odyssey and the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive. So I fired up Job Simulator and took this picture in all of the devices for us to compare them. Now this is how the Samsung Odyssey looks like through the lens. It looks really sharp, and still when zooming in you can still see some individual pixels, some little screen door effect, but it's pretty sharp. Now let's have a look at the HTC Vive. This is how it looks in the HTC Vive. Still good, however, you can see with the naked eye already there is screen door effect. And now let's zoom into that Office Worker cartridge. Now colors look great on both devices since both are using OLED technology. However, here you can see many more pixels and a much more pronounced screen door effect as with the Samsung Odyssey, and that does make a difference. And here's the direct comparison. On top you'll see the Odyssey and on the bottom you see the Vive. Now, well, the Odyssey has 2.3 million pixels per eye, whereas the Vive and Rift only have 1.3 million. So yeah, of course, there is a difference, and you can see it here very clearly. And this is the same picture on the Oculus Rift. Again, with the naked eye, you can see some screen door effect. It's not as pronounced as with the HTC Vive, but it is more obvious here than it is with the Samsung Odyssey. So let's also zoom into that Office Worker cartridge. So Vive and Rift are very similar here, but the Rift looks a bit better than the Vive. Also, here's the direct comparison between the Odyssey and the Rift. Odyssey on top, Rift on the bottom, and you can clearly tell the difference. Also, in terms of FOV, the field of view that you have in virtual reality, this one beats all of the Windows MR competition with a field of view of 110 degrees. However, I know that some of the Windows MR devices also claim to be 110 degrees, but if you pit them side by side with the Samsung Odyssey, you will see that this one still wins and has the higher FOV. Now, compared to PSVR and Oculus Rift, this one wins, and against the HTC Vive, they have a very comparable FOV. So if you come from the HTC Vive, you will feel right at home here with the Samsung Odyssey. Now let's take a moment to talk about the sweet spot of the Samsung Odyssey. Now, what is the sweet spot for VR headsets? Well, it's this spot, the area, when you wear the headset and everything looks perfectly clear and you don't have to adjust the headset any further. That is the sweet spot. Now, there has been some criticism of the other MR headsets that the sweet spot is much smaller than, for example, as compared to the HTC Vive. And well, I have to admit that is true. But the good news is that for the Samsung Odyssey, this problem has been fixed and the sweet spot is considerably bigger than, for example, with the Lenovo Explorer, which has been my favorite MR headset until this headset. So the sweet spot is very good, much bigger, and now very comparable also to the HTC Vive. But I would say that the HTC Vive still has an edge here when it comes to the bigger sweet spot. the last thing that I would like to address here while talking about the lenses are God rays. Now, the Samsung Odyssey, just like the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive, uses Fresnel lenses with those concentric rings around the lenses. Now, unfortunately, Fresnel lenses are prone to God rays. Let me show you what God rays are. In high contrast scenes, you will see this kind of glare that you can see right now on this picture. And this is very, very pronounced on the Oculus Rift and to a bit lesser degree on the HTC Vive. Now, since this one also has Fresnel lenses, this one also has a bit of God rays, but it's not at all as pronounced as on the Oculus Rift, and it's also better than on the HTC Vive. Now, in a nutshell, if you want to get the headset which can produce the best looking picture in VR, you have to get the Samsung Odyssey, period. Alright, let's talk about the controllers that come with the Samsung Odyssey and the controller tracking. So first of all, Samsung is shipping 2 controllers here, and they come with an upgraded design, which is different from all the other Windows MR controllers that ship with the other headset. And that is much appreciated because this is much more comfortable in your hand than the other Windows MR controllers. So good job, Samsung. Then here, the controller itself, it comes with the touchpad and the joystick just like the other controllers. The menu button here, the Windows button, and then we have the trigger button here, and we have a grip button here at the side. So this is really a nice controller. It feels much better in your hand again. And what is nice about all the Windows MR controllers in general is that you have both, that you have touchpad and joystick. So compare this with the wand from the HTC Vive and the Oculus Touch controller. So the Oculus Touch has this joystick here, and the HTC Vive wand has the touchpad. So the Samsung one, the Windows MR ones, have both, which is really cool. That means you can play all the HTC Vive titles, which are made for trackpad, but you can also play all of the Oculus Rift titles, which are made for the joystick. So this is really, really convenient. From these 3 controllers, still the Oculus Touch is my favorite controller, simply because it's so ergonomic and you will completely forget about it when you're in VR, so that's perfect. However, the Samsung Odyssey one is a great mix between the HTC Vive Wands one and the Oculus Touch. So this is a great controller, especially because it has both touchpad and joypad, so you can play all the games, the HTC Vive games and the Oculus Touch games, and you will be very happy with the Samsung Odyssey controller, and it's a big step up from all the other Windows MR controllers. Now, an important question to answer, of course, is how well do the Samsung Odyssey controllers get tracked in space? Now, I've made a whole video about this topic, about how well Windows MR controllers get tracked in space, and you could and should check out the full video here. Now, in this video, I came to the conclusion that the Windows MR controller tracking is pretty damn awesome. And that's also true for the Samsung Odyssey controllers. These get tracked in space so well, and you won't have any problem whatsoever. Now, a big misconception is that you won't be able to play bow and arrow games, for example, when the controller gets out of your personal field of view in VR. But that's not true, because the cameras on the headset have a much wider field of view than you have in VR, so they will still get tracked in space. Also, if they really get out of the field of view of the cameras, then they still have their own motion controls. So the orientation will still get tracked in space, and once they get back into the field of view, everything will be normal. So believe me, you won't have any problems whatsoever. Also, for example, in first-person shooters, where you grab something from your holster or from the back or from here, from the shoulder, this also works well. I've made a video in which I'm testing out Onward, BAM, and Pavlov, and all of the 3 games worked great. Before I come to the final conclusion, which I had already told you in the very beginning of this review, let's talk about the content that you can play with the Samsung Odyssey and actually with all the Windows MR headsets. Now, the great thing with the Windows MR headsets is that you can play all the content. You can play all of the Steam VR apps and games, and you can also play all of the Oculus Rift apps and games. And on top of that, and that's something that the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive cannot do, you can play all of the Windows Store apps and games. So that is pretty awesome. This one plays it all. Now with all that said, let's finally come to the conclusion here. So overall, this is the best VR headset that you can buy right now. It has the best overall picture quality within VR, and I believe for so many of you this is simply the most important. Now it has hugely improved controllers as well that track great in space. Okay, the tracking is not as perfect as with the Vive, but in 97 or 98% of all the cases it will work great. Please do check out my other video again. Then it's incredibly convenient. You can bring this to a friend with a laptop and you do not have to set up any base stations. It will simply work, which is so good. I recently had a friend over, and this friend from overseas stayed at our place, and of course she slept in my designated play area. So I simply brought this over to the next room with my laptop and everything worked fine. This is so good. Then this has an IPD adjustment, better than all the other Windows MR headsets. So if you have an IPD which is not 64 millimeters, but is completely different from the norm, you can set it up here and you will still have a great VR experience. The headset and the microphone both work great, and overall this is a super comfortable device which plays all the content from Steam VR, from the Windows Mixed Reality Store, and also Oculus games. Everything works fine on this headset. So this is my recommendation for you. It costs $499 if you're in the States. If you're in a country that does not sell this device, also no problem. You can import it, and the way you import it, I made a video about it. You will find a link in the description below. And that's it for my full review of the Samsung Odyssey. I really hope you enjoyed it. If yes, give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you have not subscribed to Mixed Reality TV yet, do so now. I'm looking forward to see you in the next episode.